Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, guys. Hope you're doing well and enjoying the journey of learning in Tabarak Academy. Today we're going to talk again about something really important related to the faith of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to our pillars of Iman, the sixth article of faith, which is the day of judgment, Yawm al-Qiyamah, the final hour, the day of recompense. All those are names that are called basically, and they're referring one thing, which is Al-Yawm alladhi sanalqa Allah azza jalla fi, the day that we're going to be meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We wish Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for us, as He promised, as He promised to us that Allah will make it easy for the people, for the believers, and it will make it not easy for the disbelievers. So the day of judgment, we want to today talk about it. What is a day of judgment and why there's a day of judgment already? And what's the point? What's the idea? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created another life, a hereafter, and that life is just temporary. So let's just discuss this, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So the day of judgment is the day that we're going to be meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that Allah will judge us on our good deeds and the bad deeds. So the good deeds and the bad deeds, which we're all committing and we're all doing and making them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge on the good deeds, so He could be rewarded on them, and the bad deeds are going to be penalty on them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His mercy, because His name is merciful, Ar-Rahim, His name is Al-Latif subhanahu wa ta'ala, so He's going to be forgiving subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He promised that He's going to be forgiving the people they believed in Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah has forgiveness subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah accepted repentance if we did the bad deeds and we repented and we give up doing that thing, like smoking, like drinking alcohol, whatever. We stopped doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we repented, we don't want to do it again, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts our repentance, our tawbah. So that the idea of the day of judgment should tell that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't equalize, put the right and the wrong together, be the same. How the wrongdoer be exactly the same as the person he is faithful and the person he is doing good deeds. Allah will not make them be equal subhanahu wa ta'ala, never. So that's why the day of judgment, that's why in the class of school, the teacher puts a test, so that you could know the person is going to success, the student is going to success, and the student is going to be failing. So to know who's right and who's wrong, and who's the one who's succeeding and who's the one who's going to be failing. So the same exact ideology of the day of judgment. So believing in the day of judgment makes us feel confident that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not abandon your deeds, your good deeds. And at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you're like oppressed, if you're like occupied, if you feel so much harassment, so much tyrants, so much unfair injustice, never forget that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just al-adl. And there is a day of judgment, Allah will take your right subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the day of judgment gives us the feeling of mercy, the hope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, feel that Allah is just, give us confidence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not abandon our right subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah will give everyone his right. So basically, the day of judgment, so just to say it in summary, the day of judgment, basically we believe in the day of judgment through our practice as well. If you're doing your prayer and your salah, that means really the day of judgment, because that's a good question. How would I know? How would I fulfill the belief in the day of judgment? How would I know myself if I'm believing in the day of judgment or not? Through your deeds. If you're doing your salah, if you're believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you're fearing Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, that means that you fear the day that you will meet Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the day of judgment. So the day of judgment, Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's not just, I believe in it, and that's it. No, it has to be with actions. As people say, actions speak louder more than words. Actions speak louder more than words, so we need to see actions, deeds, to show that you really have fear and have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me tell you a quick story that shows really the difference, and it shows like how important it is, the difference between the people who believe in the day of judgment and the people who do not. There was a man, he had a garden, and that garden he was taking care of it. Like from fruits and from taking care from the grazing and everything, and make sure that the fruits are fresh and whatever. After he died, he left that garden, and his sons inherited the thing. So that was it. They got it through inheritance. And they were kind of miser more than their dad. They were taking care of the garden, but they were not making any poor person come to eat from the tree. However, their dad, he was so generous and was given a lot of charities and a lot of good deeds, a lot of sadaqat, and a lot of zakat. Why? Because he knows. He remembers there's something called the day of judgment. He remembers, so he's preparing for it. So as for them, they weren't doing the same. They were not doing the same this. So what happened is, they were miser and they were not generous at all, and until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught them a great lesson. One night they woke up, they found their garden is totally uprooted, so basically dark, and they've been fire Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the story of this in Surah Al-Qalam. You know, أصحاب الجنة. Allah said, فانطلقوا وهم يتخافتون ألا يدخلنها اليوم عليكم مسكين وغدوا على حرد قادر فلما رأوها قالوا إنا لضالون. Oh, we're misguided. بل نحن محرومون. Subhanallah. قال أوسطهم, the best one out of them said, ألم أقل لكم لولا تسبحون. So I mean, that shows really how important it is for the story to be discussed. The Day of Judgment, it has a lot to say. I just want to make it quick and I'm making a summary. Wish you all the best, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you and you guys make us and you guys be winners and the people to survive in the Day of Judgment. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.